Ancient history. The excavations conducted by the German Archaeological Institute led by Ortwin Daly and Don Archaeological Society brought to conclusion that there was a Greek settlement in the place of the modern-day Taganrog, founded in the late 7th century BC. It played an important role in the course of the early Greek colonization of the Black Sea region, and was founded probably soon after Berezan and Histria. It is anyway much older than the first settlements and colonies in the Cimmerian Bosphorus at Tanna that were founded between 580 and 60 BC. According to scientists, the name of the settlement might be Emporion Kremnoi on the coast of Palus Meotis, mentioned by Herodotus. Foundation of Taganrog. Peter the Great tried to conquer the Turkish fortress of Azov to get an entrance to the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. His first Azov campaigns in 1695 failed, but his second attempt the next year led to victory. To keep Azov in his possession and hold off the Turkish navy, the Tsar gave orders to expand his small war fleet, built during the winter of 1695–96. Peter the Great put the Azov flotilla under the command of Admiral Fyodor Golovin, a Russian nobleman who was the successor of the Swiss François Lefort. Golovin was assisted by Vice Admiral Cornelis Croix and Rear Admiral Jan van Ries. The first Russian Navy base, Taganrog, was officially founded by Peter the Great on September 12, 1698. Taganrog is one of the first Russian cities, which was built according to a detailed plan. Vice Admiral Cornelis Croix, who is regarded as the architect of the Russian Navy, became the first head of Taganrog city in 1698–1702 and in 1711, and produced the first maps of Azov in Don River. The project for planning and building works in the city was established in 1698, basing on the instructions provided by Peter the Great. City development in the 18th century. In 1704 the ploughing of virgin land started. Next year were planted the imperial vineyard and orchards. The building and construction of the seaport, fortress and town were generally completed by the end of the first decade of the 18th century. The seaport of Taganrog represented an irregular water surface of some 774,000 square meters. It was the first artificial seaport in Russia. Boyar Alexei Shine was in charge for construction of the haven. The pentagonal fortress was erected on the cape. Inside the fortress were built stone living quarters for soldiers and civil population. By the middle of 1711, according to the information of mandating chamber of Taganrog, there were over 8,000 inhabitants in Taganrog. As the development of the social life in the region progressed, Taganrog retained its military and administrative significance and gradually became the handicraft and commerce center. In 1700 to 1711, the Azovc Navy was the guardian of Russia's southern frontiers. But in 1710 Turkey unleashed a new war against Russia. Russian troops commanded by Boris Sheremetev were surrounded by superior Turkish forces near Prut River. The Russian Tsar had to sign Treaty of the Pruth returning Azov to Turkey and destroying Taganrog. On September 19, 1711, by the order of Peter the Great, Taganrog was demolished. In February 1712 Russian troops left the town. For 50 years the seaport, fortress and town laid in ruins. Taganrog begins again. The Turks recaptured it twice, but it was taken by the Russians in 1769 and definitively ceded by Turkey in the Treaty of Karachkanaji. On April 2, 1769, Russian troops entered Taganrog. The city was refounded by Catherine the Great, who issued a decree addressed to the Vice Admiral Alexei Senyavin. Taganrog was populated by Greek colonists who, like the Greeks of classical times, took refuge from poverty or tyranny in townships around the northern Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Some Greeks had been Mediterranean pirates and were now tycoons. Many lived by cheating Russian farmers and bribing Russian customs officials. They spread wealth not only by conspicuous consumption, but by generous civic arts, founding orchestras, clubs, schools and churches, bringing in French chefs and importing Italian sculptors. Ioannis Varvakis and Achilles Alpharakis are the most famous Greeks of Taganrog. The Bell of Chersonesos. The Bell of Chersonesos, or the Fog Bell of Chersonesos, is considered by many as one of Taganrog's sites located abroad, which even became a symbol of another city, Sevastopol to be more exact, the symbol of Chersonesos Taurika. The Fog Bell was cast in 1778 from the trophy Turkish cannons seized by the Russian Imperial Army during Russo-Turkish War. The bell features depictions of patron saints of sailors, St. Nicholas and St. Phocas, and the following phrase can still be read today in Russian. 1778, which literally means, this bell was cast in the St. Nicholas the Wonderworker Church in Taganrog from the trophy Turkish artillery. Weight, pounds. Year 1778, month of August, on the date of ... The bell was cast before the foundation of Sevastopol for the St. Nicholas Church in Taganrog, which was the Russian Navy's military base at the time. Until 1803 the St. Nicholas Church was subordinated to the Navy Ministry. After Sevastopol became main Russian Navy base in the south of Russia, the Emperor Alexander I ordered the bell to be transported to Sevastopol to be fitted in the Church of St. Nicholas, which was being constructed there, with other bells and church plates also given over to the city of Sevastopol. 19th century. In 1802 H.M. Alexander I of Russia signed a decree establishing the city of Taganrog as a governorate. In 1805, Baron Balthasar von Kampenhausen was appointed by Alexander I of Russia governor of Taganrog, and for his achievements he is still considered the best head of Taganrog of all times. Kampenhausen achievements include the Taganrog Customs District, the new slope to the haven, new stone storehouses for goods, the start of construction of coasting vessels for transportation of goods to other Russian ports on Black and Azov seas, inauguration of the navigation school, the commercial gymnasium and the commercial court, the construction and building committee that planned the future city architectural development, introducing oil lighting in the streets, starting the paving and greening of the streets. In April 1806, founding the Gorky Park. 2 streets in Taganrog were later named after Kampenhausen: Bolshoi Kampenhausenski and Marlo Kampenhausenski. Tsar Alexander I also left his mark on the city. He came to Taganrog for spiritual solace at the end of his reign, and settled in a modest single-storied palace. Soon after moving to Taganrog he died. At least, it was announced that he did. Rumors arose that he ran off to Siberia and became a holy man, and that the body of a soldier who resembled him was used in the funeral. Taganrog was briefly a shadow capital of the empire. In April 1833, there happened in Taganrog an important event in Italian history, though the city's inhabitants were not aware of it at the time. Giuseppe Garibaldi, who came to Taganrog as a young merchant marine captain in charge of the schooner Clorinda carrying a shipment of oranges, met fellow Italian Giovanni Battista Cuneo in a seaport inn and was convinced to join the revolutionary movement which was to take up the rest of his life. Russian playwright and poet Nestor Kukolnik, who settled in Taganrog in 1857, influenced a lot the way the city and the neighboring area developed. Kukolnik was the first to prove the need of university education in the Don River region and on Azovc. His offer to open a university in Taganrog was not successful, but later it proved to be an important foundation for opening the Novorossiysk University in 1865. Kukolnik also proved necessity of a newspaper in Taganrog. It was one of the reasons to open newspaper publishing houses not only in Taganrog, but also in Odessa and Rostov-on-Don. Since 1865, Nestor Kukolnik led the work group that proved necessity of a railroad line from Kharkiv to Taganrog. This work was a success, and Russian Tsar Alexander II of Russia approved the project in 1868. He also was the first to raise the issue of environmental protection of the Gulf of Taganrog, but the related project encountered strong resistance from regional leadership and was not realized. Nestor Kukolnik assisted in opening the county court in Taganrog, open after his death in 1869. In 1887, the Taganrog's status as a borough was annulled, and Taganrog was annexed to the Don Voisko province. According to the City Statute of 1870, the city council was established in Taganrog for managing local development, trade, healthcare and public education. The Siege of Taganrog in Crimean War. In spring 1855, the Allied English-French commandment decided to send an expedition corps into the Azovc to undermine Russian communications and supplies to besieged Sevastopol. On May 12, 1855, English-French warships entered the Kerch Strait and destroyed the coast battery of the Kamyshevaya Bay. On May 21, 1855, the gunboats and armed steamers attacked the seaport of Taganrog, the most important hub in terms of its proximity to Rostov-on-Don and due to vast resources of food, especially bread, wheat, barley and rye that were amassed in the city after the outbreak of Crimean War that put an end to its exportation. The Governor-General of Taganrog, Yegor Tolstoy, and Lieutenant General Ivan Krasnov refused the ultimatum, responding that Russians never surrender the cities. The English-French squadron began a bombardment of Taganrog during 6.5 hours and landed 300 troops near the old stone steps in the downtown Taganrog, who were thrown back by Don Cossacks and volunteer corps. In July 1855, the Allied squadron tried to go past Taganrog to Rostov-on-Don, entering the Don River through the Mias River. On July 12, 1855, the HMS Jasper grounded near Taganrog thanks to a fisherman who repositioned the buoys into shallow waters. The Cossacks captured the gunboat with all of its guns and blew it up. The third siege attempt was made August 19–31, 1855, but the city was already fortified and the squadron could not approach too close for landing operations. The Allied fleet left the Gulf of Taganrog on September 2, 1855, with minor military operations along Azovc coast continuing until late fall 1855. Trade and economy development in the 19th century. The market played a key role in the city life and influenced also its appearance. For the beginning of the 19th century, the city had rich private residences and social buildings. The commercial Taganrog became one of the largest industrial cities of the Russian South. By the end of the 19th century grew the number of educational institutions. During the second half of the 19th century, the foreign trade turnover of Taganrog increased distinctly. Already at the beginning of the 20th century, Taganrog held the second place in Russia in the importation and the sixth in the quantity of exported products. Due to dramatic developments in domestic commerce, the fairs lost the dominant role, and the stores. These eternal trade points started to appear in the city. Petrovskaya Street Street and Gogolovsky Street turned into main commercial highways of Taganrog. The foreign investments into Russian economy influenced the development of a large-scale industry in Taganrog. In 1896, with Belgian investments, started the construction of the iron and steel factory. The factory began to function a year later. The plant produced iron beams, railings, pipes, railway bands, iron sheets, rolled steel. In 1896, the Belgian company Albert Nerve, Wild and Amp Co. started the building of the boiler plant. Besides the boilers, the works produced metallurgical constructions, iron and coppery castings. Although it was inferior to the steel plant in the production volume and workers' quantity, the tannery, founded in 1853, passed into the hands of the Belgian experts and was distinctly enlarged then. Since the 1870, the roadwork was expanded. By the end of the century, the main part of the city streets was already paved. At the same time, the greenery was planted in the city centre. In 1866, the new city theatre building was erected by the Italian architect Londoron. Thanks to the excellent acoustics of its hall, the Taganrog Theatre gained a nationwide glory. The plays of Anton Chekhov, Maxim Gorky, A.N. Ostrovsky, William Shakespeare were performed here. The special pride of the citizens was the Italian opera, financed by the local merchants, patrons of art. Taganrog Theatre had its own Italian opera from 1866 to 1875. In 1876, the first city library was opened by the governor Johann Hampus Furrer-Yelm. In 1898, the regional museum was founded. In 1907, the first Mirage Cinema was built. A few years later, the wooden building of the circus was erected. In 1871, the first private newspaper, Azovsky Vestnik, was established, later renamed Taganrogsky Vestnik. Among the city intellectuals were artists, musicians and columnists. Civil War and establishment of Soviets. The Soviet power was established in Taganrog on January 22, 1918. Anton Glashko headed the first local Soviet. From March to May 1918, the Ukrainian Soviet government stayed in Taganrog during Ukraine's occupation by German troops. Taganrog itself was under German occupation mid-August 1918. In August 1918, Don Cossacks took the control of the city. In 1919, General Anton Denikin kept his headquarters at the Evgerino mansion. Red Army troops under command of Nikolai Kuibyshev entered the city on December 24, 1919. The remaining Denikin's troops and the British consulate were evacuated by the HMS Montrose. On February 26, 1920, the Military Revolutionary Commission issued the Order No. 46, closing 5 foreign consulates that were open in Taganrog at the time. The full power was given to the Executive Committee of the city's Soviet Workers' Council on December 17, 1920, and the city joined Ukrainian SSR. However, it was transferred to Russian SFSR in 1924 along with Shakhty Okrug. Taganrog during World War II. In World War II, 1941 to 1943, Taganrog was occupied by German troops and suffered extensive damage. 2 SS divisions entered the city in October 1941, with other military and BAK divisions to follow. The local government system was replaced by Burgermeister, or new Russian local government. The SS Einsatzgruppe Sonderkommando 10-8 performed systematic genocide of Taganrog citizens, particularly Jews, from the first days of occupation. According to the information of the State Archive, some 7,000 Taganrogers were shot to death in the gully of Petrushino. In Taganrog acted at least 2 Soviet Soviet partisans groups organized by NKVD before the Soviet troops left the city in November 1941. Semyon Morozov organized an underground resistance group, which consisted mainly of young Komsomol members. The members of the two groups acted separately and were not permitted to go into contact. Taganrog was liberated by Soviet Army's 130th Rifle Division under command of Konstantin Sikov and 416th Rifle Division under command of Dmitry Sizranov. Taganrog was conferred the status of City of Military Glory by the President of the Russian Federation Dmitry Anatolievich Medvedev on November 3, 2011, for courage, endurance and mass heroism exhibited by defenders of the city in the struggle for the freedom and independence of the motherland. Modern period. The post-revolution and post-war periods gave new life to the city. The power machinery, engineering, metallurgical production, instrument making and other industry branches began to develop. The development of science was closely connected with the inauguration of the Taganrog State University of Radio Engineering. In the 70s and 80s, Taganrog was known as an important scientific and industrial center of southern Russia. Taganrog companies produced steam boilers, self-propelled combine harvesters, drill, casing, oil, gas, and water pipes, gears for searching fish and other installations. Taganrog products were exported to over 50 countries of the world. The disintegration of the Soviet Union and the first economic reforms in the early 90s were very unfavorable from the citizens of Taganrog, but the local government of the city and the managers of industrial enterprises didn't fold their hands and tried to find the right ways in the new market economy. They managed to preserve the experienced workforce and improve the technological processes. By the end of the 20th century, the production output growth rate reached nearly 400%. The multi-purpose amphibian B-200 has been designed and put into production by Beriev Aircraft Company. This amphibian aircraft has no analogues in the whole world. The TAGMET Iron and Amp Steel Factory applies the most progressive steel casting technology and grafts on its growth rate. Invest Finance and AMP Industry Group launched the production of passenger cars under license of Citroën, France and Hyundai, South Korea. The citizens of Taganrog witnessed the inauguration of a new maternity center. A new ophthalmology department for veterans was opened in the Hospital 7. Several new trolleybus and shuttle bus routes have been introduced throughout the city. There are no obstacles with installation of digital phone lines in the city. Video phone communication and high-speed internet access are now widely available. On January 29, 2010, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev visited the city of Taganrog within the framework of the commemorative events for the 150th anniversary of the great Russian writer Anton Chekhov.